Welcome to Benoy's Breakdown. I'm Jeremy Nygaard. This is Coach Scott Benoy. We're here to talk about the last 2 weeks of Blackhawk basketball, and we're going to get right into it. So, Coach, how you doing tonight?
Good. I think we've got the holidays coming up. We have a lot to look forward to from that perspective, but also some holiday basketball coming up.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit as I look at the schedule. But to recap what we haven't talked about first, the last time we sat down was the night before you guys were scheduled to go to Somerset. So Somerset, probably the favorite in the conference by outsiders, right? Top 10 ranked in the state before the season started, got knocked off by Prescott in their conference opener just prior to talking 2 Mondays ago. And then we go there on Tuesday night, and it's a tough place to play.
Absolutely.
And back and forth for most of the game. We had a girls' game here, so I was trying to kind of watch the stream. Comes down to Ryan Veenendahl knocking down a catch-and-shoot three
big shot
to win the game.
Yeah, it was, if you like high school sports, high school basketball in particular, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Two teams that I thought played really hard, that I thought played really clean, and just got after it for 36 minutes. And, I'm really proud of our guys to go on the road, hostile environment early in the year, and then for Ryan to step up and hit a big shot as a senior. He's kind of the Spartan killer right now. I think he had 4 total interceptions in the football season, and then a game winner in basketball. So
they'll be happy to see him.
He might not be the most popular guy in Somerset right now, but we sure love him.
So the end of the game, 54-53. There's not a ton of time left, right? You call timeout. What's the play call? Because Evan goes baseline. I can't imagine you're drawing up a kick-out three to Ryan at the buzzer.
No, the biggest, when I look back on that play, and it's been a few weeks now, but I can still see it pretty vividly. Our goal was to have Maddox hit a couple free throws and then go back and play good defense and get to overtime.
Right.
If that was going to be the situation. But Maddox hits the first one, and we had called the timeout before the free throws because I really believe that, and everybody has different philosophies about late game, but I think that it's often in the defense's best interest when you call a timeout in that situation. They can reset, they can talk about what they want to do, maybe change their defense. So we talked about just being very active if he would miss. And, the precursor to hit that shot was Colin going to get that offensive rebound. So Colin rebounds that second shot. Then we have an opportunity to make something happen. And I'm really proud of Ryan because whether or not he made that shot wasn't really the point. The fact is he was willing to take that shot. And when I think back to just how fun that locker room was that night and just that feeling when he hit that shot, hard to beat it. But even if that shot had not gone in, we would have been disappointed as a team, no doubt about it. But I think I would have felt just as much pride in him being willing to step up and take that, make or miss.
Right. And I mean, watching it, I don't think he's standing there thinking, I'm going to be the kickout guy. He didn't have time to think to not shoot the ball.
And I think that needs to happen more often than not with some of our kids. Just don't overthink it. Do what comes naturally. He was wide open, didn't hesitate, pulled the trigger. And, the cool thing for me was I was like directly behind the line to the basket. And when he released the ball, I think if the camera would have panned to my lips, you would have seen me say that's in, because it was just pure from the get-go. So fun night, great kid to have hit that shot, and just a fun locker room and bus ride home.
Absolutely. So then you have a week off, which is hard to do early in the season, but probably okay, trying to get some guys healthy. Go to Ellsworth last Tuesday, and Ellsworth had really struggled coming into that game and end with a 47-41 victory. Cal's first game. Did you have your full complement of players?
No. Jeremy Jacobson, he rolled his ankle at Somerset in the second half. So we played much of the second half up there without Jeremy. And then at Ellsworth, James Borkert, about midway through the second half, goes down. And so we played without James for much of the second half. And so we're just, we're not healthy yet. We've been a little bit hit by the injury bug. We still have some guys, particularly Colin, dealing with a nagging football injury. So for the things that we've been dealing with early in the season from a health standpoint, the fact that we have 5 wins on the board right now is very encouraging. And then Cal's getting his sea legs and just getting more and more comfortable. So I look for our team. I think we have a pretty high ceiling, and I think when we are healthy and we do have all of our guys for an extended period of time, practice and games, I think you're going to see some positive things happen.
Last Friday, hosting Osceola in a battle of the last two undefeated teams in conference. Osceola had a really good run last year, but did lose their highest scoring player.
Yeah.
But brought back a number of players from that team, added in some younger guys into that group. I think the thing that stood out to me last year with Osceola is they had a number of guys that played their role really, really well.
I would agree.
And a number of dudes that just guarded people.
And the last thing you said is, I have a ton of respect for Tyler Olson at Osceola. I think he's a really good basketball coach. And what's kind of interesting is I think they mirror us a little bit. You know, they're not a high-octane offensive team,
right?
But they guard very well. They play great team defense, and they really take care of the ball. I think that's the one thing, if I would look at their team and our team right now, health and injuries aside, I think what they do better than we do right now is they just take care of the ball better. And they're a little quicker 1 through 5 than we are. And I think that their senior point guard is a nice high school player.
Yeah.
He just really steers the ship for them, takes care of the ball, and can hit shots, and can hit shots at game speed. So there's no doubt that they all coached us, they all played us, but I am looking forward to having another shot at them.
Absolutely.
I think that looking at, I think they beat us 5 times in a row now. I think we've lost 5 straight to Osceola.
Okay.
And that obviously chaps our eye a little bit.
Right.
And like I said earlier, the interesting part is, out of all the teams that we play, particularly in our league, I think they're the most like us. And so I was having a discussion with my son, the director of basketball operations, this weekend, and he reminded me he lost 5 in a row.
Right.
But just kind of planted a seed that I'm thinking about in terms of maybe we can't play against them like we play against everybody else.
Right.
And I guess it shouldn't take the dinosaur 5 losses in a row to figure that out, but that is going to be something I think second time around we're going to have to consider.
Maybe there's some hard feelings remaining from 22 years ago when we went into their place.
You can tell that story there, Mr. Nygaard, but there could be. I don't know.
Because Greg Cumlin was a junior on that team.
Yeah.
Greg Cumlin's on the coaching staff now.
Yep.
Their coach was screaming at you.
I do remember that one. And, you know, the interesting part about that night is that's when we played high tempo, full court pressure.
Yeah.
And I vividly remember that. We had called the timeout, and we had actually subbed, or we were getting ready to sub because it was getting a little bit out of hand.
Yep, it was.
When we came out of the timeout, our guys were just conditioned to go pick their guys up. And before I know it, we're getting some remarks from the other bench, and I was like, sorry.
Would you rather be yelled at while up 30 or do the yelling while down 30?
Well, the funny thing is nobody really yells at you when you're down 30, but but the good news out of that story is Coach Walsh and I became pretty good buddies, and
you can laugh over
we can laugh now. But yeah, it's just funny you have that memory because and there's a coach in this league now at Somerset that was assistant coach at Osceola when that happened that night, Corey Krybeck, and it's just interesting how things sometimes
they're talking about this every time you walk into the gym.
That's why Somerset doesn't like us. I don't know, but
well, I think part of it might have to do with, for many years, we were at the top.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And when you're at the top,
people are chasing.
It's no different than how teams feel about Prescott, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep. And obviously we strive to be back in that situation, but yeah, I just think that right now when I look at Osceola, I think that they will get better. But I don't think that their ceiling is as high as ours, if that makes sense.
Right. Yep.
I just think based on where we're starting and where they're starting, I think in February we're just going to take another step that maybe they can't. At least hopefully so.
So we all walked out of the gym on Friday night not feeling great.
Yeah,
right?
that's an understatement.
48-27. Turned the ball over maybe more than we scored. Maybe had more fouls. I mean, it was...
Yeah, six 2-point field goals.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes, it was a really hard, ugly game on our side.
No doubt.
And then we get to turn around all of 15 hours later, I guess a little bit more, and welcome in an undefeated Northwestern Tigers team who was going to play a completely different style of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And we played a slower tempo in the first half and led at half.
Yeah.
I believe we were up by 12 at one point.
Correct.
Went into half, I think, up 8-ish.
Yeah, right in there, I think it was like 46, 40 or 48. Yeah.
And then in the second half, it turns into a track meet.
Yep.
and we score, after scoring 27 the night before, score 44 in the second half to beat Northwestern 70-67.
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde?
Yeah. Well, and when you lose a tough one and play particularly poorly like we did Friday, and once again, I want to give a lot of credit to Osceola because I thought they did defend really well.
Absolutely.
But there is no doubt that we just struggled. We didn't shoot the ball well from the perimeter. We struggled from the free throw line. So it maybe was in our best interest to turn around and play quickly. As you know, the best athletes have short memories.
Right.
And in that situation, you're forced to have a short memory. And I was proud of our guys because I thought even though we didn't play well offensively on Friday, I thought our effort was good.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturday, as you said, we knew that the style was going to be completely different. And the one thing about Northwestern is that regardless of what year it is, who they have, they're going to play full court pressure, and they're going to shoot the ball from the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And you also know that once you can get the ball below maybe that volleyball line, you have a good opportunity to score.
Right.
And that's exactly how that game played out. The only thing that we didn't count on is them hitting like 10 threes, I think, in the second half.
Hit a bunch.
And a lot of them were contested.
Yep.
And so when I look at our defensive effort, I thought that was also pretty strong, but give those kids credit for just making shots and getting back in the game.
Yeah. That freshman kid,
he's going to be a nice player.
He's really good.
Yeah, he's a good player.
The one thing that stuck out, because Keegan was up in the booth with me.
Okay.
So that was his debut. And the one thing he said more than, he said it probably 6 or 7 times, was he was so complimentary of how hard Maddox plays.
Oh.
And this is coming from a kid that's motor.
Yeah.
He had a hard time throttling down. He just wanted to play hard.
Yep.
But Keegan always wanted to play hard.
Yep.
And he's just like, nobody's working harder. Nobody ever works harder. What do you? It's 18 and 14.
Yeah, Maddox Mahoney has been an absolute inspirational story for kids, and here's why. I was actually talking about Maddox with some of our middle school kids today. Maddox was a B team kid in middle school, a JV player as a junior,
Mm-hmm.
and now has emerged as one of our leaders. For sure, the best motor on our team, and maybe the best motor in our league, and is a factor. He was a factor up at Somerset. He was unbelievable on the offensive defensive glass Friday and Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just can't say enough about the fact that kid has had decided a year ago, I want to contribute, I want to play a lot, I'm going to work hard. And there's no doubt that when you play as hard as he does, positive things are going to happen. And it doesn't hurt that he's got a nice athletic frame, right. But right now, he just out-toughs people, out-hustles people. So Keegan's spot on. And it makes me feel good as one of Keegan's former coaches to hear him talk like that, because that was his MO.
Right.
And he played so hard that he just elevated the effort of his teammates. And that's what we need. That's what Maddox, I think, can do for us in the future. And I think that's going to bode well for our team as time goes on.
And I'm kind of, racking my brain to go back and think of guys that we've had here that have been like that. And nobody like jumps out, because it's just because Keegan at one point said, does he have 20 rebounds? I'm like, it feels like he might, because every rebound he's going after, every loose ball he's going after.
Yeah.
It's like Dennis Rodman.
He was fantastic. And I think the other thing about Maddox that we really enjoy as a coaching staff is that, when we take the floor, Maddox doesn't care if we're playing Osceola, Prescott. We could be playing the number 1 ranked team in Division I. He wouldn't care. Right. He's just going to go compete and play. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really good lesson for everybody in high school sports, regardless of the sport. If you just lace your shoes up, go out and play as hard as you can, and respect everybody but fear nobody, right. You can be successful. And that's Maddox Mahoney to a T. He enjoys playing, and he plays very, very hard every night. Every practice he plays that way.
And did he come out Saturday? Maybe for a little.
Might not have.
I don't even know if he came out of the game. And it's hard to be able to condition yourself to have something left in the tank to give it all for the whole game.
Yeah, and we always tell our guys, hey, you reserve the right to go back in if you take yourself out. If you, Maddox has just, I don't even know if I have a great adjective to describe how pleased I am with how well he's playing. And if he can continue to do that, I just don't see anything other than our other guys elevating their effort to match his.
Right.
So that's high praise from Keegan, because Keegan is one of the high motor guys, one of the best motor guys I've ever coached here.
Right. So I do have to ask you, because at the end of the game, it's a 3-point game. And this is, you talked about strategy.
I think I know where you're going with this one. But.
So there's a theory if you foul, you can't lose.
Well,
right?
I would say that theory is partly true.
Okay.
Because, and this is always a great debate, and I like to talk about this because I don't think that I'm necessarily right or anybody else is wrong.
Right. And people do both things.
I think it does depend a little bit upon the situation, the opponent, how much time is left.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because one of the things about fouling in that situation, some people will say you can't lose, and that's not necessarily true. Because if a kid goes to the line in a bonus situation and makes the first one,
Yep.
misses the second one, that gets kicked out for a 3, that's 4 points and you lose the ball game.
Right.
So now, likely, I'm not going to say it can't happen.
It's extremely unlikely.
It's rare.
It's possible.
But so the theory is you can lose a game by fouling.
Right.
And that plays into your mindset a little bit.
Okay.
I think if there had been under 5, 6 seconds, we would have talked more about it.
Okay.
But at 10 seconds, if you foul quickly,
right.
The other thing is we've been a little bit shaky in the backcourt with the ball. And so right now we're thinking, okay, we have a 3-point lead. We're going to go to our 3-2. We're going to protect the 3-point line.
Right.
We'll let them penetrate.
Yep.
We're not going to foul the 3-point shooter.
Right.
And that's the other thing about fouling is you have to be very intentional about making sure that's not a shooting foul.
Right.
And so there's just a lot of factors. And so at that point, we're thinking with 10 seconds, let's hunker down, play defense, and get a rebound.
Right.
If there's 4 or 5 seconds, then I'm thinking a little bit more about maybe going after somebody. But those are scenarios that you have to practice, obviously.
Right.
And to be honest, there's a lot of situation right now that we're still working on. And that late game fouling and that situation hasn't been one that we really have prioritized yet. But it is a fun debate. I think about games that I've been involved with here many years ago. And I can remember this one vividly. Sean Tim is a junior, and we are playing Amory in the old gym, and we are up 3.
Okay.
And it's late in the game, and they inbound the ball to, I believe, a player named Gabe Brotzel, who's now coaching up there.
Okay.
He throws a 3/4 court bank shot in at the buzzer to put it in overtime.
Okay.
We lose in overtime, and we lose the conference race by a game. So in that scenario, would I love to have fouled? Well, I guess I would have, but
and Saturday they didn't even really try to penetrate.
No.
They ended up taking a shot from the volleyball line.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you take your chances on a shot because the ball never even really got closer.
And that's why if we thought in our 3-2, if we're just big,
right?
We're going to contest but not foul. But once again, there is a lot of theories, and I think in that situation, some of it does come down to just who your opponent is,
yep.
How much time is left in the game,
yep.
And like I said, we had some shaky backcourt turnovers, and I just really didn't want to have to play offense again and get the ball in.
And some guys, we'd had some guys fall out.
Yeah.
Guys in foul trouble. So you got to pick and choose kind of. That's just one that I always think, hey, if there's under 5, you just do it.
Yeah.
And if you do it every time and you're right 90% of the time, great. If you never do it and you're right 90% of the time, that's great too.
Yeah.
And that's how it's always going to work out. Like you're never going to always be right.
Yeah. And I think that's the fun thing about sports is, I go to games all the time, and as a spectator, like anybody that watches our games, it's why didn't they do this? Or why did they? Yep. And sometimes in the heat of battle too, it's just it's a little bit harder when you're in front of your kids than when you're in the bleachers.
Right.
And I think I did hear some of our fans, foul, and it's like, well, that didn't really.
That was Ryan.
It didn't really occur to me at that point that we wanted to foul then, but no, I think that is just a good debate. And had we been if we were in that exact same situation next Saturday against the same team, same game reset, I don't know if we would have fouled either. 5 less seconds, maybe, but it's fun to talk about.
Yep. So
no, it's fun to talk about because we won. Oh, let's just
see if he makes that shot. Maybe I approach that differently.
Yeah, well, it's hey, fair enough.
So Thursday night we bring Rice Lake back. They came here.
We were there last year. Yeah, we beat them 2 years ago, right before Christmas break.
Yep. And then last year we went there.
Lost up there last year.
And so they come back. The younger Orr's a junior.
Yeah, nice player.
And he's very good.
Yeah.
So I just had their conference record 2-1. I'm assuming they're in the Big River, so they're going to get tested every night.
Absolutely.
That'll be a tough one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm really glad that we keep them as a non-conference opponent. I have a lot of respect for Kevin Orr and their program. My son was a really good friend of a kid that played in that program, and played some AU ball with Wally Ellenson growing up. So I feel like I know that program a little bit, and I just know they play hard. They have good athletes. They're going to run the floor. Zach Orr is, I think, a better athlete than his brother, but I think Tyler might have been a little bit better basketball player.
Okay.
But that's not going to make it any easier. I think Zach is they have multiple weapons, but he is going to be the focal point. And so, they're going to be a team that's going to be hard for us to match up and play man with on the perimeter. But we might have to throw some more 3-2 at them. We'll see. But by the same token, they've never been a team that wants to really dig in for an extended amount of time. A little bit like Northwestern, that they want to make it up tempo and trade threes, but I think a little bit better than Northwestern in the half court defense.
Okay.
So it's going to be a challenge because right now we're not healthy, and doubtful that James will be playing. Colin is still banged up. Jeremy's still really really recovering from his ankle. So we're going to have a good effort from a lot of guys.
But if they want to play up tempo, now that you've had success doing that, maybe you pull out the stop sign and
bring it on. So we'll see.
All right, and then next week, I'm looking at the printout of our schedule from With Sports. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday?
Correct. It's a three-day tournament.
So Dawson Boyd, Fillmore Center, and Wabasha Kellogg.
Correct.
Where is Rushford Peterson?
Rushford Peterson is southeastern Minnesota.
Okay.
And so we're actually staying in La Crosse, if that gives you a little bit of context. And the neat thing about going down to this tournament, well, there's a number of neat things. One is just playing across the river, which means shot clock.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be a new experience for our guys. We did have the clock out at 35.
Okay.
We did have the clock out yesterday in practice. It's amazing how long 35 seconds is.
Right.
But it is going to cause us to have to look at maybe be a little bit more deliberate with some sets late in the shot clock if we have to go to high ball screen or just one of our existing sets. We've had some alumni guys in the last couple of days, which has been awesome, just having those guys back in the gym and giving us a bit of a different look, some size, some strength. What's also going to be a challenge is Dawson Boyd, our first game, is very good.
Okay.
I think they were 26-4 last year, or 24-6. They had a very good record. We were able to watch them and scout them over at the Breakdown Classic in Hopkins.
Okay.
So if you're invited to that, you have a good program. And they won pretty big. They have a junior that has multiple Division I offers.
Okay.
And I think it's Bryson Boyke, 6'7", perimeter dude, can shoot it, can play above the rim. So my hope is that we're healthy. I don't know where James will be, but that's going to be a real test because we just don't see many kids that big, that athletic, that are headed to Division I basketball. So, but outside of their team, I don't know a lot about the other two teams. Interestingly, one of our former players here is the principal at Rushford Peterson, Jake Tim.
Okay.
And so I had a chance to chat with Jake, and he let me know that Dawson Boyd would be very good. The other two maybe not as strong as they have typically been, but I just think when you get away and you guys spend that time around each other, you have some meals together, you hang out. I think a lot of good team stuff happens in those situations, and then compound that with some good basketball, and it should be a fun couple of days.
Absolutely. And then right off a break, break's not even over yet. January 2nd.
Actually, that one got changed. So I'm glad you brought that up. Nick and I talked about that really being a bad night.
Yep.
So we're going to play the 4th on that Thursday.
Okay.
At Prescott. So I think it's at Prescott.
The second was supposed to be at Prescott.
Yeah, it's still at Prescott.
Okay. So slight schedule change to make note of.
There you go.
Thursday, January 4th.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anybody else? Is there any individials or?
Right now, I'm glad you highlighted Maddox. I just think Maddox has been a real warrior for us. I also love how hard Colin plays. Having a competitor like Cal back, and then Evan Clausen. Game in and game out, Evan rarely comes off the floor. And you know how this goes as a former point guard of mine. Point guards suffer my wrath. And sometimes I feel like I'm just really hard on Evan, but what I do know about him is he wants to be a college player. He wants to get better. He just craves feedback. And we would really be sunk without him because he's probably not playing his most natural position. But the fact that kid comes out and battles and guards the other team's best player almost every night, he gives us everything he's got. So I'm very proud of him. And just the fact that guys like Jeremy and Dane and Ryan, just our Brody are just all working at perfecting their roles.
Right.
And Brody's going to have his hands full because he's probably going to have to guard some big talented kids in the near future. And so as he progresses and our team progresses, I'm excited about February.
So I got to ask you this before. I was going to forget, and I'm glad that I didn't. Friday night, Jacobson checks into the game. He's not in the book.
Not in the book.
I know how you do this.
Yep.
You write the guys down in the book. You go through the book. They lift their shirts. Do you still do this? Is it this?
Basically, so that's one though. So in my entire career coaching, that situation has happened twice.
Okay.
The first one, I can honestly blame on my wife. I let her write the names in the book. It was a Saturday game, so I have to throw Karen to the bus for that one.
Okay.
But Friday night was simply my fault. And part of it, once again, I don't want to make excuses because that's on me as a coach. But when I had gone through and put our kids in the book, that was Thatcher's first night suiting up. So I'm going through and I counted, yep, same numbers we had. And then, as you probably remember, I go through the book before the game with our players in the locker room. Okay, Collins won or whatever, and I did read our names, and I think maybe I obviously didn't read Jeremy's name, but no, that's one that's just on me. And you feel bad because that puts points on the board for the other team,
right?
And so made sure he knew that, hey, that's certainly nothing he did wrong. And then we had another bench technical that Coach Hall sometimes gets a little boisterous down there, and
I haven't noticed.
Yeah, well, if you haven't noticed, I'll tell you. But so he, as they like to say in the trade, he got whacked for one for really something that was. I think that the officials we had are decent. I think Tyler Shore is a very good official. Here's a lot from the bench though, and I thought he reacted a little too quickly on that one because there was no profanity. It was just him reacting to a conversation between two coaches on the bench. It wasn't directed at him. And that's kind of tough to deal with when you're then handcuffed for the rest of the game because you can't get up and coach your team.
So what I saw from my vantage point was he didn't like the call that resulted in 2 free throws. The first free throw is shot. He's standing there as this. He looks. He shakes his head. The second free throw goes up. It's missed. He looks back, and that. So from my perspective, I'm like, it looks like he hasn't stopped since the foul was called 45 seconds ago.
Yeah. I mean, once again, whenever you get a technical foul, and Coach Hall felt terrible, and apologized to our team after the game and the next day, and because you just don't want to put your kids behind the 8 ball with respect to points, but. There's also got to be some give and take. And once again, there's times when I think back in my career, and I think in 35 years, I have 3 of them or 4 of them.
Okay. I would guess more after all the bleacher kicking that you used to do.
No, but I think that, I respect those people. It's a hard job. And I think about that game Saturday. If anyone would have wanted to ref that game Saturday with the way Northwestern plays, and man, that's a thankless job. But I also think that there's just got to be some give and take when we're talking amongst ourselves and not directing it at the officials.
Yeah, that's tough.
But once again, we're big boys, lesson learned, and hopefully that will be the last time we give away some points.
And at the end of the day, it didn't really matter.
No, not one.
If it would have been a 1-point loss,
that's and if it would have been the last 2 minutes of the game, so live and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's Coach Benoy. I'm Jeremy Nygaard. This was Benoy's Breakdown, and we'll be back probably after break to recap the holiday tournament and preview what's going to happen after that. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. So
I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas.